Hey, what is going on, everyone? I decided to do a last minute stream. I was filming a different video that I was going to put out later this week, and I had everything set up to do this type of stream because I use StreamYard to film that video. And so I thought, I'd wanted to talk about this upcoming big signature heritage auction. And so figured I would, use this opportunity. I've got this set up right now, and I would just go live and do it as a live stream instead of doing it as a recorded video. Now, I like to give people a chance to join in the chat and join the stream, especially because I set this one up like 15 minutes ago, maybe even a little less than that. So not a lot of time for any notifications and that kind of stuff to get sent out. So I'll go over a couple books that I picked up recently. These are ones that if you've seen my video today, these are the ones that a few of the books that I talked about in that video. If you haven't seen that one yet, a few spoilers, but I'm not going to go over everything. And so the first one here, this is a pretty cool book that I picked up on an Instagram live sale. And this is Chilling Tales number 17. If you haven't checked out this run before, if you're into pre-code horror, definitely worth at least going to like Go Collect or something like that and checking out the different covers that are there for this run, because there's some pretty wild, some pretty cool covers in the Chilling Tales run. It is not a cheap run. It has gotten a lot more attention over the last few years and has definitely been going up in price. But these are these Matt Fox covers and some pretty cool pre-code horror covers. Hey, thanks for joining the chat. Then another one, jumping up a few years, about 40 years, we had this one, and this is just a crazy cover. This is Alf number 48. This is one where basically they were kind of trying to stick it to the Comics Code Authority and see what they could slip by. And this is really the main cover from the Alf run that has value. And this is also the newsstand, which I thought was pretty cool, but this is a pretty high grade copy. I've got it at about a 9.2, maybe a 9.4. I will probably be getting this one graded just because it's such a nice condition copy. But yeah, definitely one that I've tried to pick this one up, a number of times, and I've never just found it at the right price. And this was a great price, so I decided to pick up that crazy Elf cover. Then another pre-code horror book that I picked up was this Weird Chills number 3, another run that I would recommend going and checking out. And hey, yep, thanks for joining the chat. Yeah, glad to see some people trickling in, because like I said, I set this one up really at the last minute. I usually like to set them up a few hours ahead of time, but I had everything set up and decided to go live. But yeah, then this one, this Weird Chills, definitely recommend checking out this run as well. They're generally getting a little pricier, but they have a lot of those great elements that people are looking for in pre-code horror covers. And in this case, you've got the good girl art, bondage, the black background cover and everything. And so just a cool one. Then the not the biggest book that I picked up that I showed in that video, but one of the cooler books I bought in a while, just one that I was not expecting to see. And this was Cerebus number 1. This is really what I call like Bronze Age Grail book, like one that you just do not see pop up for sale very often. And one that I was able to pick up, I felt for a pretty good price. It's a really solid condition copy. I think it's got a shot at like a 7. I'm not great at grading these like magazine size books. I always seem to undergrade them a little bit. And so I think it has a pretty good shot at a 7, which maybe hopefully it gets like a 7.5 or something. But yeah, rare book. I think it's only like 180 or something like that on the census. Not a lot of copies on the census. Total print run was only 2,000, and a lot of those got damaged on the original print. And so tough to get this book in decent condition. And yeah, hey Flexopotamus, I believe you picked up a 7.5 of that book during that Comic Connect auction. I was pretty sure that was you that had mentioned that in the chat. So yeah, I now have one as well, but this one I'm gonna have to get graded. It's gonna cost me a bunch more money to get that book pressed and graded. But those are just a few of the books that I picked up. Let's see here. We've got some comments in the chat. Yeah, I'm still wanting an Albedo 2. Yeah, I would love to get an Albedo 2 as well. If for anybody that's not aware, that's the first appearance of Usagi Yojimbo, and really great cover too. Really cool cover. I've bid on them a couple times, but that's another one that I'm kind of waiting to see if prices correct a little bit more, because that one went crazy. Just like anything related to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like the Cerebus #1. That Cerebus is related to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Same with Usagi Yojimbo, and so those characters really got very expensive, and so I've just kind of been waiting to see if they correct a little bit. Then we've got, I saw your video earlier, got me thinking about Cerebus 1. I have a copy in a 9.2. How much do you think that book could sell for? Well, we can talk about that in a moment when I share the screen and what I think that book might go for now, just because I've got GPA pulled up and all that. So we can, if somebody reminds me later, we can definitely talk about that. Then let's see. Are you worried about it being legit? No, I am not worried about this one being legit. If you go on, if you go and just kind of do some Google searches, and I talked about this in my video, there are ways to help identify whether something is a facsimile or not. And the facsimile has a few things on the cover that, not facsimile, but a counterfeit, because there were counterfeits that were made of this book because it is so rare and it is so valuable. And so this does not have any of those signs of the counterfeit book. So I'm not concerned about that one being fake. And all right, yeah. So got a few more people in the chat now, and yes, check for restoration. Yes, I did check for restoration. I didn't see anything that jumped out. Doesn't mean I haven't missed something. I mean, I have missed restoration in the past, and sometimes, it happens. So it's always a risk. That's always a risk I see of buying a raw comic. You have the possibility of missing something that's on there. Whether that's trimming or color touch or glue or whatever it might be. But nothing jumped out to me on that book as restored. All right. So one of the main reasons I wanted to do this live stream was that I've been thinking about making a video about this upcoming Heritage Platinum auction or signature auction. I know Mickey did one where he covered, I get these things in the mail too, because I buy all kinds of stuff from Heritage. So they send all this stuff. Mickey did if you haven't checked that one out, Swagglehawks Comics, go check out his video where he goes over this book. And he's basically, he was flipping through the book and going over the different books that were coming up for sale. What I thought I would focus on in this one was these ones. So this is they call the Platinum Session. These are like the first, it's about 40 items that sell. I'm not going to go over really the original art, that kind of thing. I was going to focus on the comic books, and I think there's around 20 of them that are selling. And it's not necessarily the biggest books. It's more often the biggest books. There are a couple ones that are often show up later in the auction that are really expensive too. But these tend to be the ones that are often like the big attention grabbers. Like, I mean, you can see this here, like this Punch Comics #12 in an 8.0. This is the highest graded copy that exists of this book. That's how tough this book is in grade. I mean, an 8.0 is the highest graded copy that's out there. And so that's really one of the signature centerpieces of this auction. There's also an Action Comics 1. That is actually the book that I'm most excited to see come up for sale, because I don't see that book sell outside of private sales. It seems like every time we hear about that book selling, it's like some private sale, that's, managed by one of the auction houses, but it doesn't actually go in a public auction. This is one of the chances where we get to see what this book goes for in a public auction setting. And I'm really interested to see what that one does. Let's see. Yeah, and also wanted to thank you for the comic book presser. He has been helpful for some of my better books already. Great. That is awesome to hear. Again, if anybody uses the comic book presser, make sure to let him know that recommendation came from my channel. It helps out a lot. Really appreciate that. But yeah, I had about 60 books that were just with him that arrived at CGC about sometime this week, this last week, and they haven't showed up on the CGC site yet. So hopefully soon. But that has a lot of those like Vampirella books that I picked up in that collection earlier this year. It also has my Phantom Lady 17. And so I'm not expecting a high grade out of it. It had pen and all this stuff all over the cover. But I'm real excited about, that book getting graded and getting that one back. What do I think that Punch will go for? That is one of the things that we are going to talk about as we go through these. And yes, it's an incomplete Action 1, but I would definitely not put the in front of that. I would remove that. I would say, yeah, I think it's going to go about 300,000. That is where I think that book is going to sell. That is still an amazing book to me, regardless of it missing the back cover or whatever. I mean, it is still an Action Comics #1. And I've talked to a few people that have seen it in person, and they said it does present pretty well, despite how damaged the front cover is. It does actually have pretty good colors and all of that. Pokemon card at 370. I haven't been watching the Pokemon sales. I'm guessing that's probably a Charizard, like a 10, a PSA 10, first edition Charizard or something, if it's at 375. But I haven't been watching that. But I'm going to share the screen now, and we'll start talking about, and feel free to put any questions or comments in the chat, and I will try to catch those as I go through. So let's see. There we go. All right, so here we go. So we are on the Heritage site now. And so what I've got up here is these are just in order that they're going to show up for sale. And so what they always open up with is the original art, that kind of stuff. And that's where you're actually going to see the biggest book, or the biggest sale. The biggest sale is going to be this. It's this Frank Frazetta Death Dealer #6. It's already sitting at 1.8 million. If you watch the last Heritage Signature auction, they had an original Frank Frazetta piece of artwork, and I think it went for 6 million. I think it was like 5 million plus a buyer's premium, which is 6 million. So this one, I don't know if this will get more bids or not, but super cool. This stuff is definitely outside of any budget I will ever have. But yeah, the original art from Frank Frazetta just always goes for huge amounts of money. There's some cool stuff in this original art though, like this one, this Hana Fear #27. This looks like a Graham Ingalls. Yeah, it's a Graham Ingalls cover, and I imagine that's going to get a lot more bids too. Currently sitting at 16,500 plus the buyer's premium, so that's sitting right under 20,000, give or take. And I feel like that's going to go for a lot more than that. But yeah, if you're interested in original art, if you've got real deep pockets, then you can check this stuff out. They've got this, Detective Comics 58 original cover. This is actually the first appearance of the Penguin. Now, to me, I'm a little torn on this one because it's not a great cover to me. The Penguin's not on there. It's just Batman and Robin on a boat, but it is still a very significant item. It's from a big key book, and it's just, it's an extremely rare item to have, like an original cover from that time period. So yeah, I mean, that's already sitting at 225,000 plus 45,000. So that's sitting at 270 right now. And again, not something that I would be surprised if it went for more than that. Just such a rare item. But let's get to what I was really interested in, what I think a lot of people here are probably interested in, and that is the comics. And so the first comic book that actually goes up for sale in this auction, because you can see they've got the lot numbers here. So these are all in order. You got 91023. So this is the 23rd item. And the 24th item is this Action Comics #1. Before I get into that, let's just want to check the chat to see if there's anything else that I missed. So you've got a question about the More Fun 73 and what that one will go for. I think that was one of these too, right? Yeah. So we'll talk about that book as well. And then, yeah, what do I think the Punch 12 will go for? So first one here. Let's start with the Action Comics #1. So yes, it is it is a 0.5. It is missing the back cover. That's the note that is here, I'll zoom in a little bit. That's the note that's up here. It's missing the back cover. It's got a lot of damage to it, but I mean, the main image with Superman there with the guy running away, throwing the car, all that, everything is there. You are missing the number, which that kind of stinks a little bit, that you don't have the #1 up there. But I still think that this is an incredible book. Now it's sitting at 192,000 right now, and I'm always going to quote with the buyer's premium. If I've had people ask about that a lot, like a lot of people get really hung up on that buyer's premium. It really doesn't matter. Like the final number that you're paying is with the buyer's premium. The number that's reported to GPA, to Go Collect, to Cover Price, all those places is the final number with the buyer's premium. That's the same as on Comic Connect, the same as on, I think Hakes does a buyer's premium, all those different places. It's the final number. And so that's what really matters. So if you're bidding, ignore the 160,000, ignore the actual bid number, and always pay attention to the number with the premium. Heritage is annoying. Does even scan the back of book. Heritage always scans the back of the book. So I'm not sure what you mean. So there's the back. So Heritage used to not scan the backs of some of the less expensive books. If you go back, maybe like four years, something like that, and earlier, it used to just be the front cover for the kind of like the less expensive books, and the front and back cover for the more expensive books. For slabbed books now, and for raw, they always do front and back covers. So that's that is this comment here from Stephen. No, they do always provide the back cover. Now, I think is it Comic Link? I think Comic Link very often does not provide the back cover. And yes, I agree. That is obnoxious. They seem to do it on some really expensive books, but they often don't do it on most of the books. But Heritage, at least for the last few years, always does front and back. Let's see. Yeah, the Action one is pretty beat up. I agree, but I still think this book is going to go for 300,000. So let's take a look at the at GPA for this. So we've got Action Comics number 1, 1938. And all right. So now let's look at what this book has gone for. I mean, we've got a 3.0 that went for 1.6 million, and then nothing. I mean, you've got pages, you've got that kind of stuff. And you've got this like 1.5 sale from 2005 for $10,000, which I'm telling you right now, if that is real, like that looks like one of the best purchases of all time. But this is the type of thing, this is the type of book that is going to be really, really difficult to price. Now, you could say, based on, these numbers, this looks like it's at around 550,000 per point at a 3.0, around 500,000 per point at the 6.0. And then you've got this one here, this 8.5, that looks like it went, this one was, is that right? Yeah, 3.2 million for the 8.5. These numbers from 2021, I think are just, they're super low now. I think that these numbers are going to get massively eclipsed. But I don't think that it's necessarily going to just be like, you've got 500,000 per point, and so at 0.5 becomes 250,000. I think it's going to be a little bit more than that. And just the reason I think that is that I think it's going to be a lot of competition to get into this book. And so when you're getting into this book, there's, at the low end, even though this is multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars, there's going to be a lot of people that, and by a lot, I mean, I don't know, maybe 20, 30, 40 that are going to be bidding on this just to get a copy. And so I think 300,000 is the bare minimum for what this book goes for. I think maybe it could go for 350, something like that, but I would be surprised if it goes under 300 with this book. Let's see. Oh, you're thinking of Golden. Okay. Yep. Yeah. I never watched the Golden auctions. Yeah. Missing the number 1 should knock 7,100 off. Yeah. So if anybody doesn't know what that's referring to, there was a sale like 2 years ago for just the number 1 from an Action Comics. And yeah, it went for like $7,000. So it was, if you haven't seen that sale, Dave with Comic Book Investments, his channel, he talked about that in a video. I mean, like 2 years ago when that book sold. And it's a hilarious video. I'd recommend going and checking that out. That auction actually went for 3.2 million, and someone spent more than that on original artwork, 3.6 million. Yeah, original artwork is another story. I'm definitely don't pretend to know how to price original artwork. The one of one type stuff is extremely difficult to guess who's going to want to pay what. I feel like if that Secret Wars 8 sold again today, it probably would not hit that 3.6 million. Whoever bought that would probably try to do a private sale because they would be at big risk of auctioning that now. But that's my thought. And hey, Dan, thanks for joining the chat. Let's see. Said, wow, if I sold my entire collection, I could actually afford an Action Comics 1. Would I do it? No. Yeah. And that's one of the interesting things that I've talked about with a number of people before. Like, would I sell, my everything you have to get that one book? And me personally, at least right now, my answer was no. I have definitely been consolidating my keepers list because If you're not familiar, if you're new, to watching me, that kind of thing, I buy and sell comics. I consider myself a dealer, but I also have my, what you call like PC, or I refer to it as my keeper list. And so with that keeper list, it used to be, it was up around 100 books, maybe a couple of years ago. And then even though I'd said it, I wanted it at 50, but it kept growing. It was hard for me to sell stuff. Got up to 100, and then I cut it back down to 50. Then I cut it down to around 35. And now recently I've cut it down to 20. And part of that, or a big part of that, has been that I've gotten more expensive books. And so I've had to reduce the total number in order to justify keeping those books. And so I have been trending in that direction, but not to the extent of selling everything to pick up one book. I'm down to 20. Let's see. I'm not sure what you're referring to here. The sale is right here on my screen. Yeah, this one, the Rocket copy. Yeah, I am aware of that. That was one of the ones I was talking about, where that's about 500,000 per point. Same thing here, around 500 to 550,000 per point. But I do think that 0.5 is going to break 300. Looking for your opinion. Heading to a con in a few weeks. Can't choose between Batman Adventures 12, Batman 191, Edge of Spider-Verse 2. Usually I go with and then it's cut off. So, I mean, it's hard to say. Like for me, I don't ever really target like a specific book, because you never know what's going to be available, what the prices are going to be. I mean, for me, like, those are all great books. I mean, there's nothing you could really go wrong with any of them. I mean, it's possible some of them could be dropping in price still. I did talk about Batman Adventures 12 in my recent modern video, if you want to go check that one out, as well as Edge of Spider-Verse 2. And so that could maybe give you some insight on which ones seem to have better value right now. So I'd recommend going and checking out that video. The final part of it is actually over on the Fanalytics channel, if you want to go check out the full complete part of that video. But for me, really, it's what's available at that time and what's being asked. Because say, there's a Batman Adventures 12 and there's a 9.8 or something, but at the show they're selling it for $4,000 when it's going for around 25 to 2,800 right now. Even if I told you, oh, I'd buy the Batman Adventures 12, I sure as hell wouldn't buy it for $4,000 for a 9.8. So it's hard to really say like what you should buy, because it is really dependent on what is available at that show and what people are asking. And because I think you've commented before or something, and I thought you were maybe going to New York Comic Con, and prices can be real high at New York Comic Con. So just, be aware of that. Like you can find deals, I'm sure, there. But I mean, that's one of the biggest cons, and the bigger the cons, the more expensive they can often be. So it really depends. That's all I can really say, is it depends. But I would go check out that modern video that I did, because I did talk about 2 of those books there, and that should hopefully give you some insight. So shout out to Baltimore Comic Con. I had been thinking about going to that show. So I'm in the DC area, and so I thought about going up there, but I ended up not making the trip up today. And I'd been traveling last week, and I didn't feel like driving more. So especially, I mean, you never know what prices are going to be like at those shows, and so I ended up not going. Let's see. I'm just trying to check the chats here. Oh, the number 1 sold. Oh yeah, they did. I didn't realize that they actually captured that here. Yeah, this was that Comic Connect sale. I bet they have a link to it then, so we could actually see it, because they always have. Yeah, there we go. So if you want to see this is that number 1. That it's all it is the number 1 in this gigantic slab, sold for $7,100, has this red dot on the back. And I think the funniest thing to me about this was that they gave this white pages. There's no pages. Like, how do you even give this white pages? It should have been, it's like they didn't have the ability to say something else. Like, they should have said something else there, because it is clearly not white pages. But yeah, I thought that was one of the funniest things I've seen, was that sale. Let's see. I want to make sure I keep up with the chat. Dan says, if I went to New York Comic Con, I wouldn't expect to find any deals. I'd only go there if I had serious money to spend. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a person that goes to cons very often. I go to the local one that's around here. I tend to go each month. I've missed a few, but yeah, the bigger the cons, I just generally hear that the more you're going to pay, because the dealers that are there, they spend a lot of money to get there. They've got a lot of expenses just in being set up, and so I mean, I understand, but I don't want to pay those prices either. Let's see. Would you buy Action Comics 12 Batman in a slab? Batman ad. Action Comics 12 Batman ad. I'm not sure what you mean there, but if you can clarify, maybe I can answer that. But all right, let's go back to this here. So we talked about the Action Comics #1. Like I said, I think around 300, maybe 350, and in an auction setting, you never know. I mean, I've seen some really big numbers out of that. When Mickey and Drew and I were doing that Comic Connect auction, when we were kind of commentating on it as everything was selling, we saw there's some big numbers, and especially when you've got a lot of competition for something, and I bet there's going to be a lot of competition for this. All right, so then we've got Action Comics #4. Actually, I'm going to skip that one. I want to move on to this one here, this All Winners #21. This is from this Feed Store collection, and if you're on Reddit, on the comic book collecting subreddit, I believe that the guy that found these books I think they're his. Like, I think he was doing a story on them, and I've seen various posts, and they called it the Feed Store collection. And this book looks crazy to me. I mean, it like, the colors are so great, it almost looks like a reprint. And I mean, yeah, 9.4, obviously really high grade copy of this book. But let's take a look at the pricing for that, because they're actually, I looked a little bit earlier at this one, and let's see, what was it? It was 21, and that one has a 9.8. I think it was a Promise Collection. Yeah, there's a Promise Collection 9.8. So we had that Promise Collection 9.8 go for 7,200. Do I think that one would sell for 7,200 again today if it came up for sale? Probably not, because I don't really consider this, like, I don't know if, like, I would call it some big key or anything. It says it's rare, an 8, but I don't know. I don't really consider this like a big key, and I've talked about that with the Promise Collection books, that the ones that are big keys tend to be hitting bigger numbers when they come back up for sale. The ones that aren't big keys are dropping. And so I would expect that if this 9.8 came up for sale again, it would probably go a little lower. But 9.4, I don't think it's even the second highest. Let's see here. So yeah, so there's a 9.8, there's a 9.6, and there's 3 9.4s. And so when you're looking at these things, you do always want to check out the census to see really where this book sits. And there are actually 2 higher and 2 more in the same grade. And so with this book, I think 25 to 30,000 is probably where it's going to go. It's sitting right under 20 right now. And so I could see this one going for 25 to 30. I think that would be pretty reasonable. Like, I would bet if the 9.8 came up again, maybe it goes for 60. The 9.6 maybe is a $40,000 book, $50,000 book. And then the 9.4, I think 25 to 30 is where I'd expect this one to end up dropping. Let's see. Oh, there's a small ad for Detective Comics 27. I mean, I generally don't really go for the ad first appearances, but that's just me. Landed in All Winners. Dan landed in All Winners 21. It's a 0.3, but it's all mine. Unbelievably rare, only 100 known to exist from 1946. Yeah, Silver Surfer. Yeah, there are some high grade books that are in here. There's some really nice 9.8s that are in here. But okay, so that's the All Winners 21. Let's talk about this Amazing Fantasy 15, because Amazing Fantasy 15 seems like it's been. I've talked about this one. This is why I ended up buying I bought that 0.5. If you haven't seen that unboxing video, I picked up a 0.5 of Amazing Fantasy 15. It's missing a page, but Amazing Fantasy 15, one of the reasons I picked it up was I talked about that. I feel like it has really corrected back to around where I think it will go. And so I think it's becoming a pretty safe book to buy. And we are seeing some relatively strong sales with it, where some prices seem to be turning around a little bit. And let's see. Hey, Kamikaze, thanks for joining the chat. And so let's see, what do we think? And there was a strong sale on Comic Connect, but that one, the Comic Connect, those last Comic Connect sales didn't get pulled into GPA. I don't know why, but normally they do, but I didn't see them in GPA, or I haven't seen them yet. But let's see. So Amazing Fantasy 15 and a 6.0. So last 6.0 sold for 78,000. That was in June. Then we have a 5.0 going for 43,000. So that's around 8,000 a point. 4.5 going for 45,000. That is a huge sale. 4.5 for 45,000 is a really big sale. We're at 10,000 a point. So, I mean, to me, I think this book is generally running around 10,000 a point up until around a 5.0. Then it typically starts picking up. You know, when you get into the 5.5, 6, 6.5, you can see it accelerates. It's more than 10,000 a point when you start getting up into these areas. And so if we take a look at a 6.0, you know, if we look at what this book has done historically, I really like to just follow these trends. And whenever we had these big spikes during the comic boom, I've really just been ignoring them. I've done a few videos talking about this when I'm talking about like top 10, Silver Age, Bronze Age, that kind of thing. And, you know, when you look at this general trend, this book looks like that $78,000 sale is pretty much right in line. I mean, if you look at that trend, 78,000 is right in line. So I would think this book probably will go around 75, and it's sitting at 75 right now. Now, one thing that, especially on the higher grade copies, and this, you know, 6.0 I'd consider a higher grade copy, people do start to get a little picky about the Marvel chipping, and this one really doesn't have any. There's a little bit, and if you're not familiar with Marvel chipping, it's something where the blades that were used to cut these early Marvel Silver Age books were not very sharp, and so they damage the edges a little bit, and so over time little pieces chip off. And you can see some of that happening here with it. But so it's basically like pre-Marvel chipping, where you've got these little tears that are in the cover, and you've got a couple little bits that have come out, you know, some down here. But in general, Amazing Fantasy 15 is especially known for this, and this one has looks really nice along that edge. So I would say this is a very solid presenting 6.0. I don't know if there's something going on the back. Nothing really going on the back. Let's see if they've got the graders notes. So tanning might be one of the big things that's hurting this one. Tanning on interior cover, light Marvel tears. So they're calling it Marvel tears because it hasn't really chipped. But overall, this is a solid looking copy. So maybe it gets a little bit of a premium. Maybe it goes for like 80. But right now it seems like this one is sitting around where I would expect it to go. You never know, you know, with these big heritage auctions, but I mean, there's 3 days left. I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't get any more bids until the live, and maybe it doesn't get any bids then, but it is a really nice looking copy. That could help it some, but I would value it somewhere around 75,000. Oh yeah. And hey, yeah, I know you asked if I was going to do a live stream during the heritage auction. I didn't, but I was saying earlier, I was set up and I was filming something using StreamYard for another video I was going to drop. And I was like, hey, you know, I got this all set up already. Might as well do this, you know, live stream and talk about the signature heritage auction, or the platinum auction that's coming up. And the question, where are we at? Yes, this is Heritage. So Heritage has they do these like big signature, or they call them platinum auctions, about once every 1.5, 2 months, something like that. And they have one coming up this week. And I can never cover these live because they happen in the middle of the day, which is frustrating. You know, I wish that they were, you know, at night or on a weekend, but the main big books happen in the middle of the day, usually on Thursdays. And so I thought I would do a live stream and talk about them before they actually come up for sale. Yeah, I've never seen short box sales or golden sales show up on GPA. That's correct. Ryan, been hunting down Disney Golden Age and eyeballing the 4-color 9 and an 8.0. Yeah, that's the first Carl Barks, I think, right? I don't know if that's in this first section or if that's later on. But yeah, there's tons of books in this auction. And it's always real. It tends to be stuff that if you're bidding on these books, you're going to be spending many thousands of dollars or a lot more than that. But then let's see the next one here. This is one you don't see every day. So we've got a 9/8 Avengers 4 first Silver Age appearance of Captain America. And right now sitting at $63,000. So let's take a look at Avengers number 4. So we've got Avengers number 4 and I've seen, 9/8s come up for sale every once in a while. There are definitely 9/8s out there. Let's take a look at the census. Yeah, there's 6 9/8s. They do come up for sale periodically. Now the last one, at least traded here, was 6 years ago. So it's been a while, but 9/6 sold for $45,000 in January, 9/4, $30,000 last year. Got a pedigree 9/4 for $34,000 last year. So what I like to do, and it's really, these are how you get a rough estimate of what this book might go for, is what I'll often do is I'll look at if there was a copy that sold, say, in 2017 in a 9/6. So let's look at the 9/6s. 2017, there were actually 2. And so there was a copy that sold for $27,000 and a copy that sold for $35,000. So let's say it's about a $30,000 book in 2017. The interesting thing with this one is you can see it actually had a spike earlier on and has never gotten back to those numbers. 2010, 60,000, 60,000, 70,000. Like, it has not gotten back to those numbers. But let's say, it's about a $30,000 book back in 2017. It's about a $45,000 book today. So this book in 2017 was around a $140,000 book. So we can maybe make a rough estimate that it's going to be about 50% more. So it might be around a $200,000 book today. It's sitting well below that right now. This is sitting at 63,000. I've said this before, it's a lot of work this book has to do to get up to 200,000. But I have easily seen books in these auctions triple, quadruple once the live sales start. So I wouldn't be surprised if we got up to that, but my rough estimate right now would be around 200,000 for this book. A book that hasn't sold for 6 years, so doesn't come up all that often in grade. I will say the one thing that probably hurts it a little bit is that even though it's white pages, and I say pages are not the cover. I think some people get the cover and the page quality mixed up sometimes. Page quality is talking about the pages. And so you can have some like yellowing or browning to the covers and still get white pages. And this one looks like it's got a little bit of kind of like yellowing to it. And that might hurt it some. I wouldn't be surprised if it hurt it some, but I still think it could hit around $200,000. That would be my rough estimate. Now let's take a look at some other grades. Like, let's look at something that sold real recently in 8.5. Is looking like it's around and it looks like that's about in line. It's around a $6,000 book today. Back in 2017, looks like it was about a $4,500 book. So it's going around 30% more. So, 30% more here would be, what's that? Around $42,000. So about 185. So, hey, we could maybe say somewhere between 180 and 200,000 might be where this book would be expected to go. Maybe somebody gets a deal. It's sitting lower right now, but that's my estimate. Let's see. Avengers 4 is an awesome book, but I'd rather have a Cap 3 mid copy at that price. I would too. But Golden Age definitely isn't for everybody. Me personally, yeah, I would rather have a mid-grade Captain America number 3. Actually, for 140,000, you get a lot more than a mid-grade. You get, I think, an 8.0 sold for like 90. Let's take a look. I think it was like an 8.0. Yeah, 8.0 sold for 90,000 in December. So for 143,000, you can get a really nice copy. You could probably get like a 9.0. So yeah, if you want one of the best copies of Captain America number 3, and it would have to come up for sale because clearly these books haven't sold for about 10 years in these super high grades, but you could get a really nice copy for 180 to 200,000. Yeah, I never say to hit the like button, but yeah, would really appreciate it. If people hit the like button, help share it, especially because I started this live stream real late. And I didn't give much warning for it. So not a lot of notice went out for this live stream. Yeah, Avengers 4 never really seems to go up in value. Seems to always stay around the same price. Yeah, I don't know, and it's interesting. I don't know why, because it is such a great iconic cover. Very popular character, but Captain America always seems to play like second fiddle or whatever you want to say to the other characters, even in the Golden Age. He like the Captain America books don't seem to perform as well as like the Batman books, or don't seem to perform as well as even like Marvel Mystery. And so I don't know why. I mean, he seems like he's such a popular character, but yeah, I agree. They always seem to be, they feel a little undervalued. I don't like to use the term undervalued just because it's hard to say exactly what the book, should be. But it does feel undervalued. Oh, hey, and thanks a lot for the super chat. Was offered an Action 670 for 25,000 and was told no one cares about that book, even though first Jimmy Olsen, cheapest of the first dozen issues of Action. Any idea why it's so unpopular? Let's take a look. So, Action Comics. I mean, I know Mickey has talked about this some, because he's done some videos. He's been picking up some Superman books. So I can tell you right now, the big detractor on this book is the cover. I mean, it's the fact that it's not a Superman cover. And so that's always going to be an issue with some of these early actions. It's the same thing with the early Detective Comics. Before issue, 35, every other cover was a Batman cover. And so it's the same thing here, where it's like you don't have as many of the covers being Superman covers. And I think that's the thing that really hurts it. If Superman was on the cover, I think it would be a different story. But still, a 7.0 for 25,000 feels really cheap. But that always seems that way with Superman. Like, the stuff always seems cheaper than it should be. And because if you put it into like Batman, it would, or Detective Comics, I think the prices would tend to be a little stronger. But let's see. How long ago were you offered that 7.0 for $25,000? Because like a 5.0 here this year sold for 156,000. So that must have been a while ago. If not, I would go and buy that book immediately, because that 7.0 is probably worth like $300,000 right now. Oh no, I put in 7. Okay, I put in 7. All right, sorry. Let's see what 6 is. Okay, all right, there you go. I bet you 7 is a Superman cover. Let's see. I would almost, let's see. So yeah, so 7 Superman cover. It's the second Superman comic cover. So yeah, I mean, it's really the Superman being on the cover is so significant. And so yeah, then you go here, 7.0 for 17,000. Had a prior sale of 26,000. I mean, yeah, I probably wouldn't pay 25,000 either. I would probably be leaning closer to this number, just because when you look at like the 4.0 and you look at the 1.8, it just there doesn't seem to be like a huge demand for this book, and I guarantee you it's just because of that cover. I'd say it's still probably like a $20,000 book, but I probably wouldn't pay 25. Let's see here. I think earlier everyone was asking what's your Ryan estimate on the Punch 12. So I have thought about this one a little bit. So I can jump ahead. I can jump ahead a bit to the Punch 12. So here's Punch 12. So, and I'm not trying to push this book, because I picked up a copy recently. I haven't gotten it yet. It has not been shipped out yet or anything like that. But just trying to be open about that I do own a copy of Punch 12. Mine is much lower grade than this one, but currently sitting at 75,000. Now, my initial thought on this book when I looked at it when it first came up was that I thought this book might go for around 200,000. And let's take a look at the pricing for it. Now, it's one of those things where this is the top of census book. top of census books can do all kinds of crazy stuff that you just don't expect. I mean, take a look at that Comic Connect auction. There were a few books in there that were top of census that just had some just crazy bidding going on with them. And so when you've got that, you know, and that top of census book, yeah, I mean, it sold 5 years ago for 55,000, but I don't think it's going to be anywhere near that today. This has become just one of the marquee covers for the Golden Age. Like, this really is, like, when people talk about skull covers, like this, it really is the skull cover for the Golden Age, and it's early. That's the other big deal. You know, it's 1945. It is really early. And so now the one thing I noticed with this one that I think, again, might hurt it a little bit is that I don't know if it's tanning, but it's definitely like some yellowing to the cover. Like, this skull is typically whiter than this. You know, it looks like there's some, I'm not going to call it dinginess or anything. It just looks like there's some yellowing to this cover. I mean, it's an 80-year-old book, but let's see if I can find another one. Because I think this 90,000 one was the Nick Cage copy. Yeah, so, I mean, let's take a look at this one versus this one. And so this is the 5.5, and you can see, like, that is a whiter, and this is Heritage, so it's going to be the same scanning and everything. And you can definitely see a difference. You know, this is the one that's coming up. This is that one, the Nick Cage copy, I think. Yeah. And so that's something that could potentially hurt this book a little bit, is that its visual appeal isn't quite as high in terms of the brightness of the skull cover, but it is the highest graded copy. So it's going to have the cleanest edges, cleanest corners. There's no big creases or anything like that on this cover. And like, I mean, like, mine is, you know, beat to hell. So, you know, that's what you're normally going to get with this comic. But when I was looking at this one, I was using something similar. I was trying to look at, like, what this book was selling for 5 years ago in other grades. So if we look at this 4.5, you know, we look at 2013. Now, this was 2018, so, you know, you can't say that it would exactly have sold for this, but let's pretend in 2018 this was a $10,000 book. And so then it's gone up about 4x in that period of time. So if we, you know, multiply this by 4, roughly, you know, we get to $200,000. Then let's take a look at maybe some other grades, you know, like a 1.5. So in this one, we've got in 2018 was a $3,600 book. Again, here, that is 4x exactly. And so again, this book in that period of time seems to have gone up about 4-fold. And so that would put this at, you know, that would put it at 220,000. But I think, you know, you don't always know for sure. So I think roughly 200,000 is around where I think this book could go. Again, I don't know how much, you know, that color is going to impact it. But that's what I think. I mean, right now, this book is sitting below the Nicolas Cage copy. I mean, there's no way this book is selling below what that one sold for. So I think 200,000 is a pretty reasonable estimate for this one. Let's see. DC Comics Golden Age covers are lame. Monkey cover, heroes on skates, skis, big wheels, bikes. Yeah, so I mean, you're making fun of my ostrich cover in the back here. I have that first penguin, you know, right back here on the cover, you know, with the riding the ostrich. But I've made fun of that too, so that's okay. But yeah, no, I agree. That's why I refer to them as campy covers, and they aren't all that way. But that's why there are certain covers from Batman, from Superman, that kind of thing that I personally like a lot more than others. And so, yeah, like, to me, I know some people say they really like those covers, and that's fine. But to me personally, the ones that I like to collect are the ones that don't have that campy feel. Yeah, the Marvel runs, you know, like Captain America, Submariner, Marvel Mystery, all that kind of stuff, like those ones, they don't really get into that campy stuff. There's definitely more of that on the DC side. And to me, that's really something you have to consider with the different books that you're picking up from those. That's why in Batman 1 through 11, I guess I'd call it, Like there are certain covers I like a lot more than others. Like I don't really like the cover to Batman #2 because that's the one where Robin's like behind a guy tripping him. It feels too jokey. Whereas Batman #3, Batman #9, Batman #7, like that one there, like those to me are really cool, like more like action type covers. And so yeah, there's a big difference to me depending on the covers with DC. What do I think the price on the Crime Suspense Stories 22? Or what do, let's see, let me see. Do you think the price on Crime Suspense Stories 22 is accurate? And do you think it will continue to gain or just sustain? The 6.5 sale really put things on the map. So here, I'm going to take a drink first here. I've been talking a while, losing my voice a little bit. So if you're not familiar with what that's referring to, it's actually not in GPA. And this is what I was talking about. There was a huge sale on Comic Connect for a Crime Suspense Stories #22 and a 6.5. I don't think, yeah, it's not here. So I don't know why it's not pulled into GPA, but it's not. And it was for like 20, and it's not just this one. It was, I haven't seen any of the Comic Connect sales in here. It was like $24,000 for a 6.5. Me personally, when I was watching that sale, I was expecting it to go for about 14. And I thought I was maybe being like too aggressive on that, like thinking it was that it might go lower even. And when the bidding just kept going, I was like, man, I don't know what's going on with that book. So yeah, I mean, when you get up to like an 8.5, you know, these types of things, you get some really high numbers. And there is definitely some price compression down here. But man, like that jump from 11,000 to 24,000 from the 6 to the 6.5 just seemed too much too fast. So I don't actually know. I don't think that's one of these early ones. So what I can do is we'll go here and we'll search for that one because I don't know what it's sitting at right now. All right, so here's that 6.5. So right now it's sitting at 12,600. And now I will say the 6.5 that sold on Comic Connect was maybe a little nicer. I don't think it had quite as much tanning. It was maybe a little nicer, but I mean comparable. And when I say nicer, I mean they're the same grade, but there's certain things where you have, you know, different visual appeal of books. Like you can get the same grades with different types of flaws, that kind of thing. So right now sitting at 12,600. This one is the big question mark. A lot of people want to know, is this book going to hit that same 24,000 number or even get close to it? I think it probably won't. Now, some people will say like, well, maybe that person that bought spent the 24 will, you know, try to bid this one up just to kind of like justify their price, but then they risk picking up two of them, you know, and having them for really high prices. So I don't know. But it does mean with that Comic Connect sale, there were two people bidding, you know, so that means somebody, you know, was caught up in that as well. And there were two people willing to pay around that number. Now there's only one person willing to pay that, and maybe they get it for $10,000 cheaper. Who knows? But I'm a person that I generally want to see a confirmation sale. It doesn't have to be in the same grade. It could be in a different grade. Like if we had seen a 6.0 sell this month, like soon after, and it goes for 18,000 or 19,000 or something, you go, okay, like maybe these are the new prices. This is rebaselining, but we have not had any type of confirmation sale like that in any grade yet. And so this is really the next big one that's coming up. And so if this goes for like 14,000 or 15,000, you go, okay, that other sale was an anomaly. And this is probably more like what the price is. So I'm still saying that this is around a $14,000 book, and we'll just find out when that actual bidding happens. Let's see. I think the Punch 12 is from Lee, is on his IG page. I'll have to go check that out. Yeah, he has some amazing stuff. He's actually the one. If you watched my video that I put out, is it today? Yeah, today. The Underworld Crime 7 that I picked up was from Lee, and the prior copy of Underworld Crime 7 I picked up from Lee. So he has some really cool stuff. Like I don't know if he still has it or not, but like he had the He had a Captain America 3, like a 7.0. And I mean, he has some crazy cool books. So I talked about this one a little bit earlier. The buyer's premium is hard to swallow. I always say, like, you just don't look at the buyer's premium. Like, nobody that's bidding here, at least on purpose, nobody that's bidding here is thinking, oh, I bid 10,500 and then I just have this fee that's on top of it, but I really paid 10,500. Everybody that is bidding is looking at it, just ignoring the 10,500 and that they bid 12,600. That's all you have to think about it, is that the buyer's premium is the fee that Heritage is taking because of them selling this book. Heritage is a business. They got to make money, just like Comic Link is a business. They take 10%. Comic Connect takes like 15%. Heritage takes this 20, plus they take the seller's premium. Sometimes things get worked out, and get deals depending on how much you're selling. All the, like, eBay takes 12% or 12.5%. I mean, all these places, like, they need to make money. And it's just very obvious how they make their money here. And I know sometimes it's hard for people to see that, but really, like, when you're bidding on Heritage, I never even think about the actual bid number. I only think about the bid number plus the premium. That's what you're paying. So that's the price. Like, the bid doesn't mean anything. Your personal favorite has always been Black Cat 50. Yeah, I mean, for me, I like the ones that aren't quite as super violent. so that's why, like, I generally, I mean, probably the most violent one that I actually, really like is Crime Suspense Stories 22. It's a violent cover, but it's not quite as in your face, I feel like, as like Tomb of Terror 15 or Black Cat 50, but still, I mean, that's for me. That's my personal taste. Let's see. Yeah, just include the BP when you're bidding, and it's not a factor. It's only hard to swallow if it's hidden or tacked on at the end. Yeah, like, I mean, that's one of the things that can be tricky with, like, Comic Connect, is that some of their listings have a buyer's premium, some of them don't. You see it, like, they tell you it's there, but you don't actually see it when you bid. With Heritage, like, it's in your face, like, what you're bidding. They give you that price when you're bidding, and so that's definitely something that I really do like about Heritage, how they're very open and upfront with what you're paying. Batman 9 is the Spotlight cover, not the Infinity cover. I think the Infinity cover is maybe 8. I think it's 8. Let's see. Yeah, Batman 8, this is the Batman 8 Infinity cover. Batman 9 is the Spotlight, because 9 is one of my favorite covers. I love that Spotlight cover. Let's see. Oh, hey, and yeah, thanks again for another super chat. When you get to More Fun 73, your job is to convince me not to buy it. I'm coming with 100,000, but can put it towards X-Men 1 or just the stock market. Oh, and hey, the Ace House, thanks for joining. All right, so I will jump to that one. I really appreciate the super chat. So let's see. So let's jump to that More Fun. Where are you? All right. So we got More Fun. Number 73. Like, right now, it feels really low. So for anybody that's not aware, More Fun 73, it's a triple Golden Age first appearance. First appearance of Aquaman, first appearance of Green Arrow, and first appearance of Speedy. So it is a big deal book. This one is also a white pages copy. So 1941 white pages, I mean, that's something else that, it adds to it. I'm not a page quality person. Like, I buy brittle page books. I buy all this, slightly brittle books. I don't care. But, I know it does make a difference, though. I do understand how it can make a difference, especially with things like Golden Age. But let's see. I mean, off the top of my head, 100,000 doesn't feel like it would be enough, but I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, I'm gonna stick with that. I think 100,000 won't be enough, but so maybe that will if. All right, so let's just start with this. Let's look at a few sales here. So we've got a 6.0 that went for 90,000, a 2.0 that went for 72. What I see when I see that is I see that there is a bare minimum price that it is very expensive to get this book. And that happens a lot with some of these really pricey books, these really rare books, these big keys, is that just to get a copy, you're going to have a huge entry fee that you have to pay. And that's why I wouldn't be surprised if that Action 1 we talked about earlier, 300, 350, now as I'm thinking about it, I'm like maybe even more, just because it's that entry price to get that book, what somebody will pay no matter what the condition is to get that book. And with this one, it seems like that's around $72,000 because, that's a 2.0. I bet the entry price, if like a 1.0 is probably like 50 grand. But then when you move up here, you're getting this plateau that seems to be around $100,000. And I think maybe it's just like, once you get up to that price point, people have other things that they can buy. They have these competition books that they can pick up. And, it's like if I'm spending 100 grand, maybe I want a low grade Cap 1, or maybe I want, to get that, a Batman 1 or something like that. I don't think you get any Tech 27 for 100 grand. But there are other like big golden age books that you can get at that price point. So it seems to me that if I was going to price out a 7.0, like looking at this, I would think probably around 115 to 120,000. That's where I would price a 7.0 right now. So if you, I know I'm not helping you here, but if you can get it all in at 100, that seems like a pretty reasonable buy. Now, we do have this Aquaman movie coming out, and I know people like to think that like these golden age books aren't impacted by movies, and these big keys aren't impacted, but they are, and they will still be impacted. Like Wonder Woman books went crazy when the Wonder Woman movies started coming out, like All-Star 8 and Sensation 1, all that. Like, so the biggest keys, that exist are impacted by this stuff. So if that movie is terrible, which it will probably be terrible, maybe that drops the value of the book. I don't know, but I would value this book around 120,000. If you're able to get it all in for 100,000, I would probably do it, which means like if you've got tax, I don't know if you've got a tax exemption or what for your buying, but if you're able to get it around 100, probably not a bad purchase. I think it's probably a pretty safe purchase, especially considering the 6.0 at 90. So I know that's not what you want to hear, but I also think it's not a book that's likely going to gain you a lot. So that's something to think about. It all depends what your goal is here with this money. If it's something where, you just want something that's going to be stable, then yeah, probably it's fine, but you may lose money long term over with inflation and that kind of thing, because some of these books like this probably aren't going to move up that much in value. Like if I was spending 100 grand right now and I was buying some big key, I'd probably go for an Amazing Fantasy 15. I feel like the prices have come down enough on that one, and they have where it's at a point where it seems like they're around, going around what they should be now. And that book consistently, year after year after year after year, seems to go for more and more and more and more money. He is the most popular character out there. Aquaman is not the most popular character out there. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's hard to do you should buy something else because it's a better return. I mean, you should buy, the thing that you want to own. But I say from an investment side of things, I've talked about this in other videos, you should buy what other people like, not buy what you like. Hopefully that stuff aligns and you still get something you like, but I would probably be targeting like an AF-15 if I was spending 100 grand on, and I was doing it on a comic. If it was purely investment purpose, that's probably what I would go for. But I mean, X-Men 1, I think I had talked about that one before in one of my Silver Age videos, and I think I had it as still pretty overpriced. So I would be cautious with X-Men 1. It had gone up a lot. I don't remember exactly. It's been a little while. But Amazing Fantasy 15 was, that's probably the one I would target. So let's see. Let's see. David Clark. Buyer's premium is too hard to swallow. I'm not sure what you're referring to there with the why GPA doesn't record those auction sales. GPA definitely they pull in, like if you were talking about the Comic Connect that we were talking about before, they pull in Comic Connect sales. I don't know why they didn't pull in these. So I don't. It's not because of the buyer's premium. I've seen them pull in sales with the buyer's premium before. And hey, Drew, thanks for joining the chat. Yeah, I was filming a video that I needed StreamYard for, and I was like, I'm all set up for this. I might as well do this live stream that I've been thinking about doing. Yeah, the Phantom Lady 17 does look really nice. I will talk about that one too. Oh, you don't pay taxes on heritage, thankfully. Yeah, so either you're from a state that doesn't have a sales tax, or you have the tax exemption. All right. So let's jump back to some of these other books here. So we talked about the Avengers. God, there are so many Batman ones in this sale. I think there are 3. There's this 3.5, then there's like a 0.5 that's like missing the front cover, and then I think there's like a 1.8 or a 1.5. I know, Mickey, I don't know if you're still in the chat here, but I know you talked about that in your video, that it's just like it seemed like a Batman #1 had always been something that I was really interested in trying to like be like that ultimate book. Like if I sold like everything, like that might be what I'd go for. And I feel like the number of times I've seen that book come up for sale has ruined that for me. I mean, it's just like endless. It seems like every single sale, like, and it's not just Heritage, it's Comic Connect and Comic Link, like every major auction, like when they have these signature or platinum auctions, I see a Batman #1, and it bothers me that I see it come up for sale so much. I don't know why, but I don't like it. It makes it feel like people don't want it. Like they keep trying to turn it over and sell it. And I don't know. It bothers me. But so a 3.5, what do I think a 3.5 will sell for? So last sale about a year ago now was 264,000. This book has definitely been coming down some, but we keep seeing these low grade copies sell, like a 1.0, 1.5, 1.8. And they just seem to be trending down and down and down. I mean, like, so it had this big sale at 180, and then this is what I'm talking about. It's like sale and sale and sale. They keep coming up, and it keeps going down a little more each time. Now, it looks like it's a book that's going for around, what's that, 60 to 70,000 per point here, going around 80,000. Yeah, and 85,000 per point here. So at a 3.5, I mean, 80,000 per point would be 280. I could see it doing that. I mean, but it seems like the trend has been down a little bit. So, I mean, for a 3.5, I mean, I don't even know where it's sitting at right now. Let's see here. So right now it's sitting at 186. I think 250 to 280 is probably a pretty reasonable range for this book. It's a nice looking 3.5. I mean, I will definitely give it that. I mean, you don't see, I wonder if it's detached. Let's see. Detached bottom of back cover, detached top of cover, multiple spine split. Okay, so yeah, that's one of the things. Like when you look at a book like this and you just see this condition and you're like, this is a really nice looking 3.5. My mind immediately goes to either spine wear or detached, and that's exactly what it is. Multiple spine split, detached top of cover, detached bottom of back cover. That means that this is only attached at the front of the bottom staple. Top is totally detached, bottom staple only back cover. So it has one point of attachment, meaning it could easily become fully detached. It could still potentially get a 3.5 with that. Back cover looks great. I mean, yeah, this is a really nice looking copy. That could, push it to that 280, but yeah, 250 to 280 is probably around where I see this book going. Mickey uses Batman ones as coasters in the Swaggle house. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. So yeah, Batman 1 more common than AS 300. Yeah, I mean, I get it. Like, it is a major book. It's a great cover. It has two of the biggest first appearances of the Golden Age in it, you know, Joker and Catwoman. I mean, like, that's why, like, I think it's just such a great book, but it really, it's bugging me that it has been just selling so much. I mean, so many copies of that book have been coming up for sale. It just bothers me. Surprised there aren't more Batman 1 homage covers. Yeah. I mean, I agree. I mean, there are definitely some. You see them in like there was that Harley Quinn one that was done relatively recently. But yeah. Would you guys rather have a 3.5 Batman 1 or an 8.0 AF-15? I would. That's a tough call. Like, I feel like when you're talking about like the, you know, if you're like flexing on people, you know, like the 3.5 Batman 1 is a bigger flex than the 8.0 AF-15. It's just, you know, just being what it is. But if I was looking at pure investment side of things, I'd want the AF-15. I'd want the 8.0 AF-15. But yeah, that's a tough call. Like, if somebody put them both in front of me, what would I grab? I'd take the Batman 1. Like, if I'm just like, if I'm split second, you know, like, what would I take? I would take the Batman 1. That's what I would take. Mickey would rather. Oh my God. Mickey would rather have high grade DC bronze horror than Batman 1. Yeah, we've been talking about that we've been seeing a lot of like people posting like high grade bronze horror, and you know, recently. Would rather have a Tech 31. I agree with that. Dollar for dollar, if I could have a Tech 31 or a Batman 1, I would take the Tech 31. There's just something about that cover that's just incredible. Like, that is one of the books I think maybe I've talked about that one. Like, I will own I will own a Tech 31 at some point. I think I can make that happen at some point in my life. I don't know when, but I will own a Tech 31. I remember one year at San Diego Comic-Con, Mile High had 5 Batman ones. This is before CGC started. Yeah. So I guess it's not a new thing, maybe. Like, it's just, but I mean, it's not like there's a ton of them. I think there's, I don't know, it's like 300. I don't remember exactly. Let's take a look. Yeah, 301 total, and 140, and there might be some regrades in there, that kind of thing. 144 universal. So I mean, in terms of a Golden Age book, that's a lot of copies, but it's just like you'd think that like people would be holding on to this, like a book they'd hold on to, but you feel like they're selling all the time. All right, I want to check up on the chat here. Remember 15 years ago, ASM1 and VF was like $1,500. That's so crazy. Yeah, that's what I agree. I agree with your hypothesis you've been putting out there, Mickey, that it's a lot of dealer buying and hopefully the turnover slows down. Yeah, I mean, hopefully that's the case. But I mean, even a lot of, I mean, I know we've seen ones where some of these books have sold recently. We know that like we've seen the dealers they've gone to, like they pop up at cons or they pop up on Instagram. So it almost feels like maybe it's still changing hands with dealers. I don't know, but yeah, hopefully it ends up in, you know, somebody who's going to hold on to it for a little while. Is Superman 1 more or less common than Batman? Oh, way less common. Superman 1 is much less common. Let's take a look. Especially universals. Superman 1. So we'll go to the census. Yeah, so 73 universals, so it's about half, 176 total. So I think the Batman 1 was like, what was it? 144. Yeah, almost exactly half. So about half is common. Superman 1, half is common as Batman 1, at least graded. All right. So let's jump back to the I think we've insulted Batman 1 enough. All right, now Captain America #1. All right. This is a nice looking 2.0. I mean, I'll say that right now. So it says there's tape. Let's see. Tape on interior cover and centerfold. I mean, that's a great looking 2.0. Again, I'm guessing detachments and that kind of thing. Let's take a look. Okay, so this one, man, they didn't put graders notes on this one. That's too bad. So no graders notes on this one. You know it was a walkthrough. Like usually you'd expect something there, especially with a 2.0, but no graders notes on that one. Let's take a look. I mean, no big pieces out of the front, no big pieces out of the back, which tells me spine splits. It's probably detached. I mean, it looks like maybe it's barely, like, I can't tell if that's the staple or the mark of the staple. I feel like that's just like the line. Like to me, that doesn't look like a staple. That looks like a line from rust maybe or something, and maybe it's underneath or it's been removed. And I don't see a second one. Oh, there's the second one. It's hard to tell for sure if that's actually attached. So my guess would be detached and some significant spine splitting, just because it's such a nice looking copy. Otherwise, I don't see the flaws that get it to a 2.0, which tells me that the flaws are on the spine. You know, it's probably got a fair number of splits going on, but that's how you get a really nice presenting 2.0. So let's take a look at Captain America #1. All right. So Captain America #1 and a 2.0. So last sale 3 years ago was 90,000. It's sitting at 108,000 right now. So in grade, at least, already setting a record. Now the Promise Collection book went for, and it's tough to price off of pedigrees. Pedigrees typically get some type of premium, but going around 50,000 a point. This one, the 4.5, a little under 50,000 per point. The 5.0 going for about, what's that? 35? Yeah, around 36,000 per point. So a 2.0. Now, again, this is gonna be one of those things where you're going to have that buy-in. Like, what's the minimum buy-in? And you can see here a 1.0 went for 72,000. So yeah, this price per point is a lot higher than the price per point here. And you often will see that, where much higher price per point at the lowest grades, then you have a little drop in the price per point, and then it picks up again as you get to higher and higher grades. So at a 2.0, I mean, I feel like it's already over what I would have thought it would go for. I mean, I would have thought probably 110, maybe 120. Like I would have been at like 110, and it's sitting at one. Okay, it's sitting at 108. So it's right below where I would estimate that book to go. So I would think 110 to 120. It is a nice looking 2.0. Maybe it gets kind of like a boost from that. But that's where I think it'll be. I've got it 110 to 120. It's right around there right now. So we'll see if it what it picks up during the actual live sale. All right. So let's move on to this one. This is a cool book. This is a great cover. I like this cover, and I've talked about this with Drew, some Como Comics. I think we both like this cover more than Tech 27. Tech 27 feels like Batman is still very, I mean, it's the first appearance, right? So he's really unpolished on that cover for Tech 27. This feels like a much more polished cover, a much more polished depiction of Batman. So this one here, we're sitting at 75,000 right now for a 5.5. This is a book that does not, I mean, just like Tech 27, you do not see this book pop up for sale very often. It's got these like anchor date or anchor stamps on it. It's a slightly brittle page copy. When you're talking about books like this, the page quality is probably not going to matter very much. It's a 5.5. I think it was originally a 5.0, and he got it pressed because I know the person that was on Instagram. I assume it's his that he's selling it, and I think it was a 5.0 and got clean and pressed. Got a 5.5, and look at this. Like, there was one sale for an 8.5 in 2022, and then you had a 5.5 that sold in 2020, 5.0 that sold in 2020. I mean, so really, like, very few sales other than this one, and until you go back like 3 years. So how do you price this book? Now, I would say, let's see, let's take a look at that 5.5. It's Heritage Sale embedding. Yep, Heritage Sale. Let's compare these two. I mean, this one's a nicer copy. I mean, like, this is a brighter copy than this one. Same grade and everything, but a brighter looking copy. But it was 3 years ago, and the market has definitely changed, especially for these big golden age books in the last 3 years. So I expect it to sell for more than this book. We already had the the 8.5 that went for 276,000. I don't know what the census is on this. Okay, so that 8.5 is not top of census. There are two higher. And so that's one of the things I talked about this before I like to look at, because top of census, you'll get some really weird sales. But if it's not top of census, you can use that information a little better. And so with this one, I would, it's like 30 grand per point, give or take. And so at a 5.5, 30 grand per point would be 165,000. I don't think it would get that. Typically you get a little more per point, as you go up in grade. And so let's say between 20 and 25,000 per point. So that would be 110 to 125, 137, 110. That's a pretty wide range. 110 to 137. Let's say 125,000. Now I think that's a pretty reasonable estimate. I think 125,000 is a pretty reasonable estimate for this book. And I wouldn't be shocked if it went for more. I know sometimes the page quality hurts on Heritage. Like, Heritage buyers seem to be real picky with page quality. So it's possible that hurts it some, but I'm going to say 125,000 is where I've got this one at. And we'll see. Any thoughts in the chat on this bet on the Detective 29? Like, do you like this cover more than Detective Comics 27? Because, for me, yeah, I get it. It's the first appearance of Batman. But it's like, it feels kind of cartoony, with this one. Whereas 29 I don't know. It feels more like Batman in 29. So I like that cover more. Granted, I would take the 27, but that's just my take on 27 versus 29. All right. So we've got some Silver Age here. Got a Hulk 1 and a 7.5. I've been seeing a few high grade Hulks coming up for sale, and this is a really nice looking 7.5. No chipping or anything on this book. Let's take a look at this one. This is a really nice copy. Got a little crease here, a little bit of creasing along the top. It's definitely a 7.5. You've got the the spine ticks and stuff, but no Marvel chipping. Just a really solid copy of this book. So let's see. All right. So we've got an 8.0 that went in June for 138,000. Looks like it had some higher sales back during the comic boom. It's come down a little bit, maybe back in line more or less with where it should be. 7.5 for 91,000. Let's see. If you're looking at kind of this trend line here, I would say it should probably be around that mark here. This little bit lower sale. So I don't even know where it's at right now. I would think like 80. So it's sitting at 63,000 right now. I think my estimate would be around 80,000 for this one. It's a great looking copy. It's $80,000. Still a ton of money. But I do think that this book it got a little too expensive during the comic boom. And I think around 80,000 is around where I put that one. All right. I'm going to skip the Joker comics #1. Then we already talked about this one. We talked about this one. All right. Now we've got a Silver Surfer #4 and a 9.8. Now, it is off white to white pages, which I know for a 9.8, sometimes that really rubs people the wrong way. But that's a grade you don't see very often for this book. All right. Yeah, these square bounds in the Silver Surfer run, the high grade copies just don't come up for sale very often. So I'm guessing that was the record. Oh yeah. Oh my God. Okay. This is a scary book. Man, that's crazy. Like these are the types of numbers that are terrifying to me. Like this is a book that I would stay away from. I mean, like, look at this. Like it was trending up generally, but still, it's a relatively slow trend up. Went from around a $6,000 book back in 2004 to around a $10,000 book in 2017, 17,000 in 2019, and then 90,000. I mean, 5x, between 5 and 6x in the comic boom. Man, like I would not buy that book. Man, I would stay away from that book. I mean, even this, like the 9.6. I mean, look at these wild swings. Like that's terrifying. Like if you're buying this book, like swings between 34,000 down to 11,000 back up to 28,000 or 31,000. That's, I don't know. Like that's terrifying. Like I would steer clear of that book if it was me. I mean, unless it goes for like, I mean, it's already over it. It's already at 32,400. I just, no, I mean, looking at the history for this book, like to me, this book should be maybe 25 grand right now. And that's even kind of accelerating more than what I would really think. I mean, probably 20. Now, granted, it had a 9.6 that sold recently for 28, so it's not going to go for 20. I mean, books generally don't correct that hard that quick. It takes a few sales to get there. And because this book is so rare in grade, it's going to probably take a little bit, but man, like 20,000, maybe 25. I mean, other than that, I would stay away from it. It's too scary for the potential loss there. I mean, when you look at like, let's look at lower grades that sell more often. And like a 9.0. I'm like, look at this. Same stuff. Like went up to $5,600, had been, like $1,000 book not all that long ago prior to the comic boom, around $1,000 to $1,500 book. I mean, yeah, I would be very cautious unless you're comfortable, having like if another one comes up for sale in another year, if you say you pay 60, another year, another one comes up for sale, it might go for 30. And you got to be comfortable with that being a serious loss that you could take. So I'd be real cautious with that book. Off-white pages has no chance. Yeah. But let's see. Detective Comics 168. What is my estimate on that? I don't know. I haven't looked at it. So let's take a look. Okay, so there is a 5.0. I mean, I'm guessing the writing on the cover is going to hurt it some for sure. What does this say? Info Kessel. I don't know what that says. Okay, so it's a nice looking copy. Otherwise, that looks like pencil. I mean, I bet if you sent that to like Sanderson or something, you could probably get that off. I probably would have tried to get that off. I mean, I'm all for date stamps. You know, I like that kind of stuff, but like this is really detracting from the cover to me. Unless there's a like, unless that means something, like there's a historical like significance to that writing, I would probably have that removed. But let's take a look. All right. So Detective Comics 168 and a 5.0. So we've had a recent sale on a 4.0 going around 3,000 a point, 6.0 going around 3,500 per point. I mean, 5.0 probably around 15 grand. I mean, I think that even though that is the price from 2020, and where's it at right now? It's 14.4. Yeah, I think around 15 grand is about where I would have my estimate for that book. Maybe a little bit more, like 15.5 or something, but that's about where I'd put it. All right. Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for the another super chat. Let's see. So last question. My Batman 16 gorgeous presenting 9.0 white pages. You have some incredible books. I can tell you have some incredible books. Gorgeous presenting 9.0 white pages, old label 20 years ago. Dealer buddy says crack and press, go for the record high, risk it. Don't white pages fade with time. I mean, generally, it depends how old it was, how long ago it was slabbed. But at least my understanding from talking to a number of people is that a lot of times, actually, CGC was a little harsher on their page quality for the older slabs. Now, again, it depends how much older, but we're harsher on those. So a lot of times you'll actually see page quality bumps when you go from an old label to a new label. Now, white pages it's always a risk. If you're now for value, your value jump will be far more substantial. If you do really think you could get a 9.4 and you have a 9.0, I mean, that's first Alfred. I mean, like that's a huge deal. Like in even in a 9.0, I mean, that is a crazy expensive book. Let's take a look here. So, because there was a 5.5 that just sold for like 9,000 on Comic Connect. So a 9.0, I don't know if yours is the Rockford, but 22,000 in 2020, 8.5 in 2022, 27,000. So I mean, this book is probably a $35,000 book right now in a 9.0. Maybe like rough estimate. I mean, there's three 9.0s, 1.92. I mean, if you even thought there was a chance at a 9.2, you're going to get substantial jumps in value. If you can move up, and I'll call it one grade going to 9.2 and one grade to a 9.4. If you move up one grade to a 9.2, worth it. Yeah, I mean, if you're in it, but each book has to be evaluated on its own. Old label does not make, okay, yours isn't the Rockford. So any other 9.0 hasn't publicly sold. But the 8.5, considering the 8.5 was 27,000, I still think 9.0 is probably a $35,000 ish book right now. I mean, 9.2, you get big jumps there, like maybe 50, and maybe more than that, being the tied for highest graded. Maybe, I mean, it's tough with with those books that are top of census, but 50 or more, and then a 9.4, even more than that. I mean, yeah, if you really think that the possibility is there, I would say it's worth it. There is always risk when you're cracking out these books. Like you're having not just your presser handle it, you're having CGC handle it. I don't know if you're going to bring it down there personally because you don't want to put it through the mail. There's like somebody makes a mistake slabbing a book and pinches it, between the inner well, like all these things are things that can happen. and their risks. And so you've got to take that into consideration. But if you have evaluated it and you think not just because it's an old label, but because it looks like it can legitimately get a 9.2 or a 9.4, I would put that way above any concern about losing the white pages. Now, I don't know what your personal opinion is on, wanting to have that page quality above all else or something. But to me, 9.4 off white to white destroys 9.0 white. Like that's my take on it. Like if 9.2 off white to white destroys 9.0 white. Now, as long as you're storing the book well, and it's got the chamber paper in there and all that kind of stuff, like you aren't keeping it up in your attic, or something like that, I wouldn't be worried about the page quality. But again, there's always a possibility that they aren't going to give you the same page quality. I feel like page quality is a little more of the kind of like wishy-washy on what you're gonna get. And so I would say you're probably almost certainly going to get at least off white to white. But if you do think you can get that higher grade, I would, yes, that far exceeds anything that you would lose in value from the page quality. Let's see. I traded an amazing 129 and 108.98 white pages for it. Okay. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's tough. I mean, I've only cracked out a couple books, and I'm generally like I'm risk averse to cracking books out, even when I think that there's a good chance for it. And so that's me. But yeah. Oh, you've only owned it for 2 months. Okay. All right. Yeah, no, that's cool though. I mean, like that's an incredible book. Yeah. And hey, Geek Aficionado, thanks for joining the chat. All right. Let's jump back over here. So we talked about these. We're getting near the end here. I think, yeah. So we only got 3 left. So and they're all pretty great books. So first one here, we got Submariner #1. So, and if you haven't seen Alex Comic Hoarder's video, he got a barn find copy of Submariner #1, which is super cool. I'd recommend going and checking out that video. But this is a very high grade copy. This is a 7.5. Now, this is an expensive book. I remember there was I remember that there was was it the Submariner one? Oh no, that was the Marvel Mystery I'm thinking of. All right, so it wasn't that one. That was a different one. All right, so Submariner 1 and 7.5 hasn't sold in 3 years. So last sale 50,400. This is a book that I feel like probably isn't going to jump up all that much. But let's take a look at this. We've got a 5.0 going for 33,000, 5.5 going for 28,000, 4.0 going for 29,000. I mean, all these right around the same price. Like, just feels like it's like around a $30,000 book, like just across multiple grades. You get up into some of the higher grades, you're getting into the 140,000. So this could be a tough one to price to where it could end up going, because there's a lot of price compression right here on this book. Now, looks like it's around a $6,000 a point book, 6,000 to 7,000. Was this one? This is a 7.5. It's an old label. But you think that old label's probably been in a lot of hands. Like, people might not think it can, they just think it's a 7.5. I think, I was going to say it'll probably go around 50. It's already at 52.8. I mean, if this is around a $7,000 point book here, 6,000 to 7,000, maybe it's 7,000 to 8,000 here. I'd say, yeah, I mean, I think it's probably pretty close to where it's going to go, like 55, maybe 60. Someone might be willing to take that risk on it. Like, do they think that it can do better than a 7.5? I'm guessing that's a scratch on the case, not on the book. But if we're looking at the spine here, yeah, this almost certainly wasn't cleaned. Like these old label ones are almost never cleaned. But you can see that spine wear along here. There are definitely plenty of spine ticks, and you're probably not going to be able to do much about that. You can't get rid of, and you've got this chip down here in this corner. So that chip is probably the biggest limiting flaw in this book. That alone, I don't know if I'd risk ever cracking that book out. You could go for a new case if you want it in a new case, but yeah, with that chip there and just the general spine wear, I don't think I would risk like trying to get this regraded. It looks great from the front. It's a beautiful copy from the front, but I don't think I would risk trying to regrade this book. Like, I don't think it's like some slam dunk 8.0. You've got a tear here. Looks like I'd probably, I might go for a new case, but yeah, I think 55 to 60, and I think it's probably a 7.5. I wouldn't go for more. Let's see. No, 98 cents. I know a 98 cents is a lot lower. All right. So yeah, this one, I think 55 to 60. Now we've got Superman #1. This one as well. We've been seeing a lot of low grade Superman #1s. It's like they're always not 1.5s, 1.0s, 1.8s. This is again, like to their credit, I'll say they've been really nice looking low grade copies. They generally are not missing any pieces. This is it's a white pages copy. It's probably detached and probably has a bunch of splits. Let's see if there's, the back cover looks great. It's like it is. Let's see if they've got graders notes on this one. 7.5 inches of spine splits, missing coupon, centerfold in centerfold does not affect story, detached cover, tear with crease, right? So there's lots going on in this one. The 7.5 inches of spine splits alone also is missing a coupon. Is that on the, oh yeah, it is on the cover. Coupon missing from centerfold. Okay. So it's a 1.5, but it is a really solid looking 1.5. So what do we think this one will go for? And like I said, we've had a number of sales recently, so probably can make a decent guess at what this book is actually going to sell for. All right. So we had a 1.0 that went for 100,000. Feels like a pretty good deal. Had but as high as 140. Yeah, but man, look at how, this book became a $100,000 book, like in any grade at that point. Then we've got a 1.8 at 288. That was probably a little high. I think that was a very strong sale. I don't think that would hold up again. We have a 1.5 at 192. I think that's probably a little on the strong side too. So what do I think this one would go for? I think like 160, maybe 170, something like that. I think the coupon missing might hurt it. It's got white pages, which is going to be a positive for it, but that coupon missing is going to hurt it for some people. Because you can't get that one off the label. They always mark the missing stuff on the label. So yeah, I think 150 to 160 is where I'd put this one right now. Hey, it's like, prove me wrong, Superman. But we've been seeing so many of these lower grade copies that I'd like to see a high grade copy come up, like one of these ones come up again, where you get something that you just don't have sell quite as often. I don't think. Oh yeah, so I saw there were some questions or comments about the red label. Yes, so the red label was CGC used it for their old label moderns. So if you had a modern book, They gave, oh yeah, and there you go. You got Derek. CGC used to have a separate category for modern, which they gave a red Gen 1 label. So yes, if you had a modern book and that old style, they would give it the red label. So it's no different than the blue label, really. It's just that they had a different style for the moderns. I don't know why, but that's just what they did at that time. All right. And we're down to the final book that's part of this this big opening sale, and that is a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1, a 9.8, white pages. This is another book that I've seen a number of copies of this come up for sale recently in the 9.8. And so I think we have a pretty good idea what this one will go for. And it'd probably be around 150 based on what we've seen. So my guess would be it's probably going to be around 150, 140 to 150. Yeah. So I think the other one was on Comic Connect, and I think it went for right at like 150. That one was, I think it was signed. Like it wasn't a yellow label. It's the old signatures. So I think that one was like the, where they mark it on the label, where it's signed on the interior by, I think, Eastman and Laird. So, oh man. I mean, it's a book that it's been correcting. The grades that sell more often, it's been getting back down like around where you'd expect it to be. It's definitely a book that in the more obtainable grades, it's one that I've been watching. I think it'd be really cool to own a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1. I would really like to own one of those at some point, but the 9.8 it crossed, I think it crossed the 250,000. There might've been a sale that did, but not one that got pulled in. So 245,000 prior to the comic boom, like 30,000 or 35,000. I don't see it coming back to like these types of prices, but I could see this one isn't signed. Probably like around 140. I think 135 to 140. Sitting at what, 108 right now? Yeah. It's a 9.8. It's a beautiful looking copy. It's such a cool cover. I do really like this book. Like I said, would love to own one at some point. Can't tell if that's probably just something from the image, but yeah, I think 135 to 140 is my estimate for the TMNT one. All right. See if there are any other questions in the comments. Are in my comment above, issues of oversized, not census. I'm not sure what that means. Did I miss the detective? I did not. So I was only going over the books that sold or are in that first, like the platinum part of the auction, the Thursday early sales. But I can look up Detective Comics 33 if you would like. Let's take a look at that one. So we got a Tech 33 in a 3.5. That's a cool cover too. I really like that cover. So let's take a look. And if there's any other books that people want me to look at before I end this stream, make sure to let me know. I am East Coast, so this is it's a little late for me. I started this stream a lot later than I would normally. So a 3.5, a solid looking 3.5. Looks like some splitting in the bottom of the spine here. Yep, some splitting, some spine wear. A little bit of chipping on the side, but on average, a solid looking copy. So we had a 3.5 in 2021 go for 45,000. We had a 4.5 go for 62,000 this year. So that's about what, 14,000 a point, give or take there. This one is maybe like 14, 13, maybe around 13,000 a point here. This one going around 15,000 a point. So I think it'll probably go around a similar number. Let's see where it's at. It could be, yeah. So I think probably around 45,000. That is roughly where I would guess that book would sell at. It's sitting at 28,800 right now, but I think around 45,000 seems pretty reasonable for where I would think that book would end up going. Now, I know that there was this massive sale for the 6.5 that I remember when that one sold. that book sold for too much. And this sale, feels like more realistic on those prices. But yeah, that was a monster of a sale. You always wonder, is that going to impact prices? But I mean, this one sold after, this 4.5 sold after, and it did not have like some huge jump because of it. So this just felt like a couple people got really, that really wanted this book. And, it's one of those things, like if you don't want to wait another 5 years or whatever it's going to be for that book to come up, you're going to bid on it. And if you got enough money, you don't care. So, it's one of those things where you go kind of like it sold for what it sold, but I feel like there has not been a sale that has shown that is like confirmed this type of price point. I mean, this is almost 50,000. It's like $45,000 a point, and nothing down here is anywhere close to that. So we'll see, but I think probably around 45,000. Would I rather own a TMNT 198 or a more fun 73? TMNT 198 for me. But I think the TMNT 1 in this auction is going to go for more than the more fun 73. I don't think, I know you said earlier your price point was 100,000. I mean, it's already over that. So, it'll be fun to see that. Oh, I'm glad you pointed that out, because then I can talk about this. All right, because I had forgotten about that. All right, so there were supposed to be 3 Ultimate Fallout 4s in this auction of the Jurjevic variant. But there's only 2. One of them got pulled, and I think it's selling on Tuesday this week and I don't know if it's the same one. This is just my speculation. But there's one that is ending. Yeah, this one. No, where are you? 1 day left. This guy. So my guess is that the person that was selling this one pulled it from the signature auction, because originally when we had checked, like back when it was all the books were first announced, there were 3 of them. One of them got pulled, and actually, I wonder if we can see that. I don't know if they probably weren't selling back to back, so probably not. I'm guessing they were selling at like different parts of the auction. Yeah, so there's the 2. These 2 are selling. Okay, so these 2 are selling back to back. I'm guessing the other one was maybe going to be part of the original, like the start of the auction or something. But I've talked about this book quite a bit. It has come up for sale many, many times since the prices really spiked. And man, there's no way it's selling for that. So, but since the prices have spiked, and man, this one's already higher. Okay, all right. I keep getting distracted by this thing. So, talking about the Jurjevic variant, this book went up to, I don't remember what, like 45,000 or something like that. 42,000, somewhere up in that range. And it's the 1 in 25 variant for first appearance of Miles Morales. I have talked about this book a lot because I've been trying to just like give some warning that if you're buying this book, you should be somewhat cautious, because there are quite a few copies on the census. There are, let's see if I can. Yeah, I'm going to have to search for it here. So give the census numbers. So Ultimate Fallout 4. And then I hate this. Let's see, it's probably this one. And then we've got second printing variant. All right. So even with the variant, there are 798 universals. You got a bunch of signed copies, 900 copies out there, 185 universals. There are a lot of these books that are out there, and probably a lot more that are still raw, that aren't graded. And so when this book started hitting these massive numbers, going for Like this isn't the top sale. I don't think. I think the top sale was maybe on like Comic Link or something. It didn't get pulled in because I thought it had gotten to like 42 or 44 or something along that line. Oh no, maybe it was this one, this 43. Okay, 43 too. That might have been the top sale. And it's been starting to correct because if you've got 180 some odd people that own this book, I mean, at least publicly, since this book was only a $2,000 book in 2019, only what, 21, 24, 28 copies have sold. Now I'm sure a bunch of copies have sold on Instagram or privately at cons, all that kind of stuff. But there's still probably a fair number of people out there that own this book that are into it for either not like basically nothing or $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, $10,000. And you see this book hitting $40,000 and they go, I'm going to sell that book. And then they start seeing it drop. And then more of them are going to sell it and more of them are going to sell it because you just start getting that fear. You have what happened with, I mean, like Amazing Fantasy 15, that book spiked like crazy. People were into it for a fraction of that price. And then people started dumping them and it got back to its price a lot quicker because there's a lot more copies out there. So you can get that correction. But with this one, I think I was estimating that I felt like this one would get down somewhere into the teens, like the mid-teens, somewhere in there, maybe even lower. And so I think there's just a lot of risk with this book right now. I'd be very, very cautious if you're buying this one. It's just like, I think that it's on that downward trend, and I think it's going to probably stay on that downward trend for a while. And so, like I said, just this week in Heritage, we've got 398s. We've got this one here. This is the one that's in the signature auction. It's currently sitting at 15,000. We've got the CBCS 98, which I believe I checked, and it's the exact same one that sold for like 17,000 or whatever it was. I bet we can find it. So let's see. So Ultimate Fallout 4. So where are you? It's such a... there we go. Variant edition. So the CBCS 9.8. This was the Heritage auction copy. Let's take a look. Because I think I checked this before. I'm pretty sure it's the same copy. So this one, 21 354 35B 3002. Yep. 21 354 35B 3002. It is the same copy. So yeah. So you've got someone who got this copy, for 18,000 in June. I bet they got the book. They were trying to see if they could maybe get a CGC 98 out of it. They decided maybe there was some risk to that. Like, I don't know, maybe like, I don't know this book well. I think that's actually part of her hair. I think that's not a flaw, but maybe there's something on here that they saw that they didn't like, that they felt the risk was too high on the resubmission, that they would get a 9.6 if they tried to go CGC. And so they said, screw it, I'll just sell it again on Heritage. And it's currently sitting at 7,500. Whereas the CGC one is sitting at, 15,000. So I don't know. Then we've got this one that goes up for sale on Tuesday. That's sitting at 3,240. Like, I feel like I'm missing something. I mean, I know it'll get the bids. It's like there's maybe a little bit of something going on there. Let's take a look here. I don't know what that's. I'm guessing that's just junk in the case or on the case. I don't know what. Let me check here. I want to have another one to compare against. Yeah, so maybe that's just part of the book, part of the cover. That's a soft corner, looks like. I don't know. But yeah, this one, I don't know what's going on with this book. I'm sure we'll get a ton of bids or something like that when the live starts. But currently, there's no way it's going for that. Like, I would buy it for that. But yeah, the risk on this Ultimate Fallout 4 is just so high right now. I would be really, really careful with it. And one of the big things I've talked about with it, and I see the comment, I think here, remember that they remember when the book was $1,000. Yeah. I mean, and it's not that long ago, like 5 years ago, this was $1,000 book. I mean, 2018, 1,200, 1,300, 1,500. I mean, you had this book go up 30x. Like that should like what we've seen with everything else, that should terrify you. You know, if you're buying that book, if you've seen that book go up 30x, it should terrify you. And so, yeah, I'd be selling that book too if I owned it. Let's see. Oh, someone won the auction and didn't pay. Are you sure? Because usually when it's a non-pay, they say it here. Like they say, like, because at least, I mean, at least unless, I mean, maybe you had somebody tell you that. And so that's possible. Like if you know somebody at Heritage and they said they didn't pay. It's just that often I've seen when someone doesn't pay, this will say up here like no pay or something like that. At least that's what I've seen in the past. But I don't know for sure. So yeah, it's possible someone didn't pay. I mean, if I had gotten it for 18, I'd probably have paid and just risked trying to flip it. But let's see. Has there, if there's ever a newsstand variant, wouldn't that go for an insane amount? Well, I know there was a big thing about one that popped up on Elite Comics 11 on Instagram, a 9/8 newsstand of the standard, the cover A, and it was listed for, I don't know, it was like 50,000 or 60,000 or 45,000 or something like that. I don't believe anybody bought it. I think the only way to really know on that one is to put it up for auction. I would guess it probably goes around the same price as this one, somewhere around 30, 35,000. It's going to get a huge premium for sure. But that's the type of book that you almost have to put it up for auction. Like if you really want to know what it's going to go for, you could either be leaving a bunch of money on the table, or maybe you get a lot more. Like I don't think at auction it would have gone for what the person was asking on Instagram. I don't think it would have hit that, but you never know. But I do think probably 30,000, maybe 35. Check the registration number against that last one. Sold, not sold, paid for. I'm not sure what you mean there. But I'm not sure if you mean like if because not everybody puts their books up for sale. Like me on Heritage, I have that option turned off. So, oh no, I know it's the same book. It is definitely the same book. That's why I showed that it has the exact same serial number. I'm just saying, like, I don't know if it's somebody that bought the book, received it, decided they couldn't crack it into a CGC, and then decided to resell it, or if maybe someone didn't pay. I'm not sure which one it was. I paid 11,000 for my first Ahsoka, one of 1,000 variant, and just sold for 4,800 at auction. Yeah, that is one that has come down from the comic boom. It got really expensive. I think it might have even gone above 11. I think it had hit like 15 or something like that. But yeah, that one it's a cool cover. I really do like that cover. It's a lot of money. All right. Are there any other books that anybody would like me to cover, in this from this auction? Otherwise, I really appreciate everybody hanging out with me on this live stream, especially since it was last minute. I knew it was later, and I wasn't sure how many people had joined, so I really appreciate everybody that joined. Thanks for all the comments, and again, thanks for the super chats. Appreciate that as well. And yeah, if you're bidding on stuff in this upcoming Heritage auction, good luck. I mean, Steven, if you're bidding on that more fun, I don't know if you actually want it. It sounds like you're trying to convince yourself not to buy it, but hopefully you are able to pick that one up if you do want it. Otherwise, like I said, Amazing Fantasy 15 again. Yeah. Thanks everybody for joining the chat, and I will see you in the next one.